Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Geek-Stew. I'm, of course, Ike Isaacs, the host of the mini shows, and today I am the host of Geek Rants. So don't mind the messy hair and the tired looks in my eyes, but I'm awake, kind of. I am drinking coffee, so I'm somewhat conscious. But today on Geek Rants, we're just going to do a quickie because this is something I've been wanting to talk about, which also kind of ties into this week's horror stew episode. And also a lot of horror stew episodes, I mean, realistically, or any episode that I've ever done talking about movies or even video games. So basically, the what I'm going to be talking about today is movie critics, or critics in general. So, critics. When you think about critics, you think about movie critics, you think about people who review movies, or they review video games, or they review food restaurants. I mean, that's just an example, obviously. But you think about all these people who do these reviews, and obviously people have issues with critics just in general because, as we all know, movie critics do not always... their opinions are not always reflective of what the general population is, as a consensus of. And, I could list off 100 different movies that we all know and love that movie critics hated. And I don't know, man, like something always irks me about the concept of needing movie critics. It almost seems, in a way, it almost seems just useless. It seems like a emotional gesture in a way, like why do we need movie critics if we can all agree that this movie's a good movie? So, and to kind of give a little bit of backstory to this, the other day, me and Salsa actually were having a conversation about movies. And for instance, we were talking about the Resident Evil franchise. Now, Salsa likes the Resident Evil franchise. We're talking, of course, about the Milla Jovovich movies that were directed by Paul W.S. Anderson. Sorry, I had to think about that for a second. And so we were talking about that movie franchise. And, I've always said on this channel that, like, I get why people don't like some movies. I get why people may have negative opinions about, whatever movie we're talking about. Or, for instance, anytime I do horror stew, I'm more than aware that the movies I'm doing can potentially not be considered not good movies. For instance, I did Chillerama this last week, and I had a couple friends of mine who watched the video and then watched the movie, and they were like, okay, that was really shitty. And obviously Chillerama is supposed to be kind of crappy, right? It's like intentionally bad. But we were kind of also talking about, me and Salsa, we were talking about, the Resident Evil franchise, and then the upcoming other films. Sorry, I was trying to think of a good transition there. Trying to think of the other films as well, which of course recently they actually recently came out and gave some casting updates for the new films, which are exciting. But I'm not going to talk about that because that's not what this is about. But in addition to that, they have talked about doing the Netflix series for Resident Evil and everything else, and it all kind of compiled into this conversation about how, why do people think the Resident Evil movies are horrible? Like, Salsa is one of those people. Salsa thought that a lot of the Resident Evil movies were bad, and commonly speaking, like on Metacritic and Rotten Tomatoes was the other one, they, generally speaking, are of the opinion that those movies are bad, right? So, like, the first film, of course, had like a good-ish rating just because first films just generally do. I mean, without a better phrase, first films tend to have better ratings than their subsequent films, their sequels, and I think that's probably just because critics view sequels as derivative in a way. I don't think I've ever seen a sequel score better than its original film. There are a few, examples, I'm sure, that I just can't think off the top of my head. Maybe Friday the 13th Part 2 if I think about it real close, but the first one was really good too. So it's like it's hard for me to say that it would be better. So I think there are very few circumstances where a sequel's better than its first film, especially to movie critics. But even on that same subject, it kind of rolls back to like, why are movie critics? Why do they exist? And it's also kind of prompted a conversation not just about Resident Evil, but about superhero films, because generally speaking, superhero films, they get these ratings based on a number of factors. But a lot of people don't like DC films, right? Marvel films saturate the market, right? So it's like, to me, not to say that it wouldn't be fair to, because a lot of the times I read these reviews, right, of DC films, and of course I know I'm a DC fanboy, right? I get it, but at the same time, it's like I feel like DC's not getting its fair shake, because Marvel has created this depiction of a horror film and a horror film a superhero film and a superhero film franchise. And I feel like anytime that a movie critic goes in and looks at like any kind of superhero film, they're thinking to themselves, okay, this needs to be exactly like Marvel. If this isn't the next Avengers, then it's not going to be good, right? And that even kind of, I'm not sure if you heard that, but there are geese outside apparently. But that even kind of plays into the overall of my point, is that movie critics a lot of times don't just review a movie, they compare it to everything else. And to me, that just seems counterproductive. Like I said, this might not be the most well thought out thought, but this is just something I really wanted to kind of make a general statement about. But I don't know, something always irks me about when I read, things about movie critics and everything else, just because I understand why they exist. And the same thing with like the Oscars and things like that. I understand why these, award shows exist, right? They want to reward outstanding actors and outstanding achievements. But the other day I went back through and I was actually like legitimately reviewing what movies have been in the Oscars, what movies won Best Picture over the last 100 years or whatever. And I realized that I really had not seen like any of them. Like, for instance, I saw The Revenant, right, which was the gosh, I almost forgot his name. But it was his first actual Oscar. Like, it was a big deal. Leonardo DiCaprio. Gosh, it was Leo DiCaprio's first Oscar, and it was a huge deal. And that movie was widely accepted as like a good film amongst movie critics, and it won an award. And I saw the movie. Okay, I saw the movie, and this is just an example. And I saw the movie, and I just not that I didn't like it. It was just I didn't understand what the big deal was. It was very well filmed. It was obviously based on a true story. Generally speaking, true story films, they usually tend to pack a little extra punch when it comes to those award film-esque type deals. But my point was still that I don't get it. I don't get why this is such a big deal. Why is this movie the best of the best of the best, and why is it winning awards? And it still came case in point, in my opinion, that there really was no reason for it to be winning awards, at least in my opinion. And it kind of ultimately draws back to that first point of why do we have movie critics? You know, if you take, let's say you take a poll of a general population, right? I feel like you're going to get a better idea if a movie is good or bad if you polled the general population, because movie critics, I feel like their position is to have the mindset of not the typical person, right? At least that's what my thought process is. You know, a movie critic is not your typical individual, right? That's the point. They're supposed to be different. And that being said, them being different should in turn translate, theoretically, should in turn translate, and what it should translate into is these movie critics are different. They can give a different insight, right? They're either more experienced or they are better, so they should be able to give a different insights on why a film is good or why a film is bad, right? So, and what I feel like is it isn't that they're different or that they're different enough. They are just movie critics, and they're just like you and I, giving an opinion, but they give an opinion of their people, if that makes sense. Like they're just regurgitating the same information for all of the Oscar films, and they're, you know, deadpanning everything else. So obviously that could just be a complete, you know, pardon my French, but a complete bullshit opinion. But I don't know, something always struck me as odd about why we needed movie critics or why movie critics existed. You know, I really respect Rotten Tomatoes, just because as a website, you know, it had very humble beginnings. But I don't know, man. Just something about having actual movie critics determine the worthiness of a film always seemed, in a way, negligent, and in a way just, I don't know, it seemed in poor taste. Because in my thoughts, I was like, you know, you're basically going to kill a movie because these critics don't enjoy it, even though the movie was pretty all right, you know. And honestly, the reason I say that is because as a fan of horror films are torn apart by movie critics. Unless the movie film is super original and never before seen and this, that, and the other, you know, it's always just torn apart by movie critics. Like, I think the last really well-rated one was maybe Us or Get Out. And both of those were quality films. I'm not going to say that they weren't, but not every horror film is going to be a masterpiece, right? So that kind of comes down to being able to enjoy a movie for the movie, and I don't feel like movie critics can properly purvey that or project that that ideology of you can enjoy this movie without it being an Oscar award-winning movie. And I feel like it's the job of movie critics to be super hypercritical about movies and then ultimately determine a general populace's opinion. I don't know. So that could just be me, but I'll stop ranting for that for right now. So tell me what you think about movie critics in the description below. All right, I've always been curious about what other people thought about this. I've had some discussions about this with, for instance, Salsa and some other friends of mine. And we all share sort of a generally same opinion, not 100% the same. Some of them really respect and understand the purpose of a movie critic, but I've never really had like a wide overall discussion with other people. So it'd be interesting to see what other people think about that. I know that this wasn't a full coherent rant or thought or opinion. It was just sort of just a little micro opinion that I had that I wanted to kind of throw out there for everybody else to see. So let me know what you think about in the comments section below. You know, go on Twitter and tweet us about it. You know, I'll respond to you or somebody who runs our Twitter will. But yeah, just let us know what you think. I'm curious. I've always been curious about that. So for right now, I'm going to stop my miniature geek rant about movie critics there. And of course, continue to like, share, subscribe, and follow us on all of our social medias. It should be in the description below, and you should be seeing it on the next panel here in just a minute. And of course, stay safe, stay happy, keep on, or no, stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy, and keep on growing. See you guys.